In lesson 5-7, we're going to be subtracting fractions. You will need your whiteboard marker, and your math journal too. Let's go ahead and start with the warm-up. I will tell you each of these 3 fractions are equivalent or equal. What you need to do is to write down what did they multiply the numerator by and what did they multiply the denominator by in order to make them equivalent. So for example, in number 1, I don't need to write down both fractions. All I'm going to say is they multiplied the numerator and the denominator both by 3. So now for number 1 and number 2, go ahead and write down what they multiplied by. Again, you don't need to write down the entire set of fractions. All right. Number 1, they multiplied the numerator and denominator by 10. They multiplied the numerator and the denominator by 2. All right, go ahead and erase your whiteboard and let's try a few more. 1/2 and 4/8 is equivalent. 2/3 and 4/6, they are equivalent. And 1/6 and 2/12. Would you please write down number 1, 2, and 3 and just tell me what did they multiply the numerator and the denominator by in each one of those. Go ahead and pause your video and write the solution. Number 1, they multiplied the numerator and denominator by 4. Number 2, they multiplied the numerator and denominator by 2. And the same thing for number 3. All right, now try this one. You can also divide by the same number to get an equivalent fraction. What did they divide by in number 1, number 2, and number 3? Go ahead and pause the video. In number 1, they divided the numerator and the denominator by 2. For number 2, they divided the numerator by 4 and the denominator by 4. And number 3, they divided each one by 4. All right, continue on your whiteboard for just another moment or two. It says solve. Be prepared to show or explain how you got your answer. Ella bought 7/8 of a yard of fabric to make a pillowcase. She used only 5/8 of a yard. How much fabric does she have left? So we figure out the whole is referring to 1 yard of fabric. She bought 7/8. Go ahead and write this on your whiteboard. She took away or used up 5/8 of it. How much does she have left? Keep eighths the same, and all we have to do is take 7 minus 5 is 2. 2/8 of a yard. One more problem on your whiteboard. Kanwara lives 7/10 of a mile from the community pool. Tyler lives 3/10 of a mile away. How much farther from the pool does Kanwara live than Tyler? So what we're doing is figuring out the difference. When we're figuring out difference, we subtract. So what is the whole? Well, they're referring to 1 mile as the whole. Does each fraction in this problem refer to the same whole? Yes, it does. And will the answer be more or less than a mile? So when we're figuring out difference, this is actually going to be less than a mile. So let's go ahead and figure it out. So if Kanwar is 7/10 of a mile, 3/10 for Tyler, we're still talking tenths of a mile. 7 minus 3 is 4. 4/10 of a mile. We also know that we could write it like this, couldn't we? 4/10. All right, let's go ahead and move into our math journal at this time. We are on journal page 169, lesson 5-7. Fraction, subtraction, number stories. Solve the number stories. Use a different strategy for each one. The average amount of precipitation in Death Valley, California in January is 39 hundredths of an inch. Precipitation in this case would mean rain. It could also mean snow, sleet, etc. The average in February is 52 hundredths of an inch. On average, how much more precipitation is there in February than in January? So here we're trying to figure out difference. We're figuring out difference. We're going to subtract. Plus, our title tells us we're subtracting. So fill in the whole box. The whole box refers to 1 inch. The number model would be to take the larger fraction, 52 hundredths, and subtract what they receive in January, which is 39 hundredths. And I'm going to put P for precipitation, but you could use any lowercase letter. One way to solve a fraction number subtraction problem would be to use fractions in words. So I could say, go ahead and erase this, 52 hundredths minus 39 hundredths equals, and let's go ahead and figure that out. 52 minus 39, you have plenty of space in your math journal to write this out. 12 minus 9 is 3, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So the answer would be 13 hundredths of an inch. Oops, spell that correctly. A vegetable lasagna recipe calls for 3/4 teaspoon of pepper. Caleb used 1/4 teaspoon when he grilled the vegetables. He added the rest to the cheese mix. How much pepper did Caleb add to the cheese mix? Well, we're talking 1 teaspoon, so go ahead and fill in the whole box. And then we'll go ahead and write a number model. Called for 3/4 of a teaspoon. We're going to take away the 1/4 he already put on the vegetables, and I'll put the lowercase t to represent our unknown. One way I could do this is I could draw a picture. I could show 3/4. So he started with 3/4 and took away 1/4. So if I take away one of these, I end up with 2/4 of a teaspoon. If we abbreviate that, it's TSP. So the answer would be 2/4 of a teaspoon. The next set of problems are written in such a way that they're either written vertically or horizontally, but not with a word problem. So let's just take 7/4 minus 3/4. We keep fourths the same, the denominator. 7 minus 3 is 4. 4/4. What happens when we have, what does it equal when we have the numerator and denominator that are the same? It equals 1 whole. If I ate 4 out of the 4 slices of the super huge Sam's Club pizza, I ate the whole pizza. Number 4, we keep the denominator 12ths. 10 minus 4 is 6. Look at 6/12. What's another way to say 6/12? 1/2. How many of you caught that one? You can also write them vertically, up and down. 8 stays the same. 5 minus 3 is 2 2/8. And lastly, I'm going to just erase this so I have a little bit more room. Remember how I just said when the top number and the bottom number are the same, it equals 1 whole? Look at, I have 1 whole here. So what I could do, remember, if I have the top number, the numerator, and the bottom number, the denominator, the same, it equals 1 whole. Well, what's my denominator here? 100. So why don't I just change that whole number 1 into 100 hundredths? That makes it easy to subtract. 100, if I ate 100 out of the 100 M&Ms in a bag, I ate the whole bag. That'd be a lot. I would be sick. So 100 minus 38, if you need a little bit more room, figure it out. You can do it. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 3 is 6. 62 hundredths. So just be, again, aware. 7 sevenths is the same thing as 1 whole. 8 eighths. 16 sixteenths. 34 34ths. 70 70ths is equal to 1 whole. Just remember that. All right, go ahead and finish your lesson for today. Check Schoology and see what else you need to do.